90% of our ingredients here at Vraic come from the island. We came to Guernsey from Wales. We brought the same team, but a completely different challenge. We were trying to build a Michelin starred restaurant with Guernsey at the heart of everything that we do. The island completely shapes what Vraic is as a restaurant. Receiving the star here in Guernsey was a really weird experience. Vraic is the Guernsey patois for seaweed. So we named it after seaweed because of where we are. And also seaweed plays a huge part in our menu and in our identity, I think, as a restaurant. So I think seaweed has become quite an established ingredient. Obviously, it's been around forever. Given our location, Guernsey produces around 700 different varieties of seaweed, more than anywhere else, and we have some of the highest tidal ranges in the world. Seaweed's a staple. It's very seasonal, it changes often.
We're at a really interesting point of the year, really, actually, aren't we? We're like springtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've kind of got the back end of the winter seaweeds still sticking around, and we're starting to get heaps of the more summer seasonal stuff in as well. So
yeah, so some of it, like,
a real good mix,
like the sea lettuces and the dulces are coming back, but lovely and thin and delicate.
Dulse.
And then we've got the back end of like the pepper dulse.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, we're like days or really sporadic.
Don't have long left of that.
But it's a complete staple of the menu. We use it in lots of different ways. We can take some of these and turn it into powders. They can be pickled, they can be served raw. And it does basically replace vegetables on the menu almost. The menu at the restaurant and the restaurant in its entirety, I think, is hugely influenced by Guernsey. From the airport to the restaurant, you already feel a culture. You feel the Guernsey spirit. I think we've tried to push as much of that through the restaurant as possible. There's a few things like some of our serviceware are made in the traditional Guernsey style. I think our mindset's been changed by the island. Our philosophy and ethos was always the same, but I think actually we've been sculpted a little bit by the island. We've just allowed it to kind of ripple through all of the dishes. A lot of the dishes are very, very, very local and seasonal. Lots of them centre around the fire because that's our style. We'll start with a little turbot dish. So the turbot dish is cooked Basque-style. We've got some great seaweeds that we've picked from the beach just probably 100 yards away. And the second dish is a broth. Begins with lots and lots of different types of seaweed. And then the third one is lobster. We're going to grill the tail, and then we're going to serve the claw in a bun. So the dish I'm going to prepare for you now is fast becoming one of our signature dishes actually here at Vraic in Guernsey. And it's utilising all of the seaweeds that we've picked from the beach this morning, our seaweed broth. The dish is going to start off looking very simply with a little dashi gel in the middle. Then we're going to surround it with all these beautiful seaweeds that have been prepared in a few different ways. So some have been pickled, some of them have been dressed in some little soy dressings, and some of them we'll keep it completely fresh. We'll just plate them around the bowl. What we want to do there is just incorporate as many textures and flavours as possible with the seaweed. We've got some seaweed broth that I'm just going to finish off. We've roasted some seaweed. We use that in the base of the stock. And then we've seasoned it with some miso, some mirin, some rice vinegar, a little bit of soy, some beautiful local chilies that we get from Sasha at the farm shop. And then we finish it with the spring onion oil. So the tops of the spring onions, we blend those into an oil, and then that just splits the broth and giving it a very unique texture, but also a little added freshness as well. I think that cooking is cooking wherever you are. But I think the outcome and what the guests will see on the plate has completely changed. I think it's dramatically changed. So now we're going to cook a turbot dish, where we start with these beautiful line-caught turbots. Well, all of our turbots, in fact, we go between 2 and 3 kilos, and that's because we can fit them inside our clamps. Bit of kit that I actually make in the workshop because I feel comfortable with making my own tools and using that. So very Basque-inspired. What it basically does is it clamps the fish, we're going to season it, and then we're going to be able to handle it and turn it like this over the fire, and we're going to be able to monitor that fire. So again, over the grill, we've got various different stages and various different heights. That just really helps us with being able to manage the heat that the fish is under at the time, and we'll just keep turning it. If you're thinking like almost like rotisserie style fish. So the fish has just had a couple of days hanging. So it's not aged for a considerable time, just a few days. And what we've done, we give it a really, really good clean, remove the gills, and then it's hung out so that any blood that's left in it or any water can drop out and it can just dry up ever so slightly. I'm putting a lot of salt on there, and the reason for that is that 90% of it will fall off. So as soon as we start to grill it and move it around, It's going to sit for a couple of minutes first before it goes onto the fire, and that'll start to season it. So fish is going to go up on the top of the grill. So now that we've had a little bit of time up here, and we can see that the fish starting to glisten, a lot of that salt has started to fall off. We've turned it over a few times. Now it's going to go a little bit lower. Actually, what we're getting now is a lot more heat. We'll need to turn it a lot more often and be really mindful now. This is actually the cooking of it. So what I'm going to do now is just check the texture and the temperature of the fish. So by going in with this little stainless steel skewer, I can feel the texture, and also that can come out then and go onto the bottom lip, and that'll give me a good idea of temperature. The reason we put it on the tray to rest as opposed to leaving it over the barbecue is, one, we want to stop the heat, but also we want to catch all of those juices that start to flow from the fish as it starts to relax. And we're going to actually use those as a glaze for the fish, so that really beautiful sticky turbot stock that comes from this is the first layer of glaze. All the time while this is resting, every 2 minutes, it'll just be turned. Next step really is to remove the skin. Removing the skin all the way around the outside. Careful not to touch any of the meat. All of the skirt really, this one. We actually serve this and another part of the menu as one of our snacks. So once it's cut, just work from one side to the other and very delicately just lift it. And you'll know when the fish is cooked. And if the skin doesn't come off, the fish isn't cooked. Careful as possible to keep it in as big a piece as possible. And I'm just going to take off any of these last little pieces of the skirt that'll stick to it, to show that the skin can get super, super crispy. So now I'm going to start to separate this. And we're actually just going to leave it to rest, still on the bone, while we just prepare the last of the sauce, just because it'll stay warmer and it won't lose any of its moisture. Inside the sauce, I've got some rice wine vinegar, a very special rice wine vinegar. We've got a koji soy, and there's a little bit of miso, and then we've got loads of this beautiful Guernsey dairy. So some of the butter that's been burnt, so basically we caramelise that, really nice and dark, and then we pass it off, and then we actually keep it in a little container that we can dice up. And we will use that to bring it up to the boil. Very similar to something like a beurre blanc now. Once it comes up to the boil with all of the vinegars and things like that in there, we're going to pull it off to the side and we're going to incorporate lots of diced butter. So the butter is cultured butter. This is butter that we make here. We use Guernsey cream and yogurt. And what we do is allow them to sour. And then we whip it into a butter. And once it's whipped into a butter, we then season it with red miso. So loads and loads of flavour. It's sort of lovely and sour and sharp, but it's also got that lovely salty note from the miso and loads of umami as well. I'm just going to start adding some chilled butter. This will thicken up the sauce, stir in the butter. Now this sauce will split naturally, which is absolutely fine. So because of the amount of butter that's in here, we know that this sauce, once it settles, it will start to split and then become far more like a dressing. So this is loosely based off a sambazu, which is like a 3-cup sauce, which is traditionally just as a dressing. And then by adding all the extra butter to it and turn it into almost like a butter sauce, this can sit for just a couple of minutes. So a few different seaweeds that we use for this one. I've got some Irish moss, I've got some dulse, I have some channel rack, some sea lettuce and some sea purslane. So what we're going to do is just pick the ends of these. The seaweeds here have just been dressed. They've already had a little soak in a little bit of soy pickle. Then we just refresh them slightly with this. And then with this, I'm just going to build a little nest with sea lettuce. Something that I can pick up. Because the rest of the dish, once it's ready, it's going to be very quick. So fish comes off the bone at the last minute. And then what's beautiful about this actually is looking at this, that the bones of the fish have not been cooked. So the flesh came off really lovely and quickly and easily, but then we actually haven't cooked it all the way through to the bone. So what it's going to tell us before we've even sliced the fish is that we're exactly where we want to be, really. There's our portion of fish. And then afterwards we're going to just brush it with a little bit of a soy glaze. So the glaze is some soy that we season with some seaweed, some mirin and a little bit of sugar, almost like a taro glaze, a little bit of that turbot stock into it. So to finish off, we've got some chives that we get from the local farm. We turn into an oil, and then the sauce. So it almost kind of along the lines of like the sour cream vibes we're playing onto in this. And then we fit a beautiful little piece of fish just there in the bowl. Then with our little seaweed garnish that we made earlier, just refresh that. And then finally, just to finish it, got a little bag of plankton, basically. This just acts like a seasoning right at the very end. Those are the ingredients that have really shone for us and I think really transformed the flavours that we can deliver because of that. I think describing the transition from Wales to here just in a single sentence is quite tough because it's quite a big challenge. It was quite a big cultural difference from myself and the family, but it's been successful so far. We're going to roast that skin that we dried out over the barbecue. It's become really lovely and crispy, almost like a poppadom cracker. This is some sour cream. So this is sour cream that we make. In essence, it's basically our butter before we churn it. It's a nice big spoonful of imperial Ossiatra caviar and some oil made from chive. It's smoked eel that's then frozen, grated over the top because we want all the texture to be focused on that little bit of skin, little chips of really delicate turbot skin, and then the guests can use that as a cracker to scoop up that sour cream, chive, smoked eel and imperial Ossiatra caviar while they're enjoying their turbot dish. I think what makes Vraic a Guernsey restaurant in particular is the produce that we use, the locals that we rely on and use to incorporate that into the whole experience. We're here with Sasha from the Soil Farm, who's a key supplier for us at the restaurant. We've worked together since actually before we even got to the islands. We're in spring, so everything's just starting to explode. And it's really just touch and base before we get into the craziness of the summer season and everything else. So let's go and take a look.
We base our growing on regenerative agriculture, so it's focusing on the soil biology, and the soil biology is what feeds the nutrients to the plant. So we consider ourselves microbe farmers rather than plant farmers.
The growing season here is so much different compared to the UK.
Yeah.
You know, we're not that far away, but you guys using the glass, using the Guernsey microclimate really, means that we get stuff from you and from some of your other growers that just don't think of as being possible. Coming back to the greenhouse is just good because it just re-energises everything, doesn't it?
It does, and having that greenhouse space. So a lot of us have mixed spaces. So we've got some polytunnels, greenhouses, and outdoor space. It just means that we can grow everything. And from a sustainability point of view, for the island, you know, that's really important because we need those seasons. We need that diversity of produce grown on island if we are going to ever hope to get away from that nasty 98% imported number. And I do think it is possible with the climate and the setup that we've got over here. So it's very exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're harvesting that as like a tender stem cauliflower. It's really interesting.
I've never seen that before. Have you done it before?
No, it's just it's what the weather provided us. So as part of our sort of zero waste, anything that comes out of our kitchen at the farm shop, veg-wise, comes straight to them, and it's all circular.
Yeah. You're a happy pig, you, mate. So following on from our visit in the glass houses and seeing this amazing produce, we've just joined Sasha now at their farm shop. So this is where we get lots of other produce, not just from Sasha and the team, but also the growers that they've put together, this community of farmers that have just exploded in the last 12 months, really. The island's undertaking, basically, it's a food revolution, and I know that sounds a bit cakey, but it absolutely is. People that are growing small amounts of amazing, amazing produce that have found themselves onto our menu. And this is where it all comes. This is where we get it all from. And this is the bit that links all the pieces of the puzzle in one hub. Rather than us chasing 30 different individual farmers, means we can come to one hub, and Cuba speaks to the guys here almost every day, and then we pick it up from one central point, and then it goes 2 miles on to the restaurant. So we use all of Guernsey's beautiful larder from the seaweed on the shores, stuff that's farmed here on the island, and their dairy that's produced here as well. We're even using seaweed in a martini.
So this is some channel rack, which Ben very kindly foraged for me this morning. And all we're going to do with it is trim it up and pop it in a little bit of olive brine. So it's almost like, well, an analog for an olive in our Seaweed Martini. So we've got a little bit of vodka, which we infuse ourselves with, well, kelp. We forage just outside of the restaurant. Brings this lovely, well, saltiness to it. Brings a lovely texture as well, which is probably the most interesting part as well. The seaweed infused vodka cools down, becomes really, really viscous, even though it won't be frozen. That's the base for our martini. To which we just a little bit of super clean sake, just to balance it out. And the very cool element of it is this little spray here, which is a pepper dulse vodka. Lovely and fragrant, really like a seaweed essence in the drink. The seaweed itself, first and foremost, it adds a little bit of saltiness to it, so it pushes it forward towards that dirty martini territory. It's still super clean, as we've only infused it for quite a brief amount of time, enough to bring a little bit of that salinity, add a lovely texture to it as well, which is the biggest factor. As they cool down, they become lovely and viscous, and that lovely, very velvety mouthfeel comes through. And cheers, this is our seaweed martini.
So we've got our delivery of lobsters as well. All of these are local Guernsey lobsters. Most of them actually caught just out in the bay here. You can see we always get a really nice consistent size of them.
Lobster we serve in two parts. We have first the tail, and then we're going to serve the claw in a bun. And they both go together, so you can use one to wipe the bowl from the last. So the lobster, we've just cleaned it up. We've got these little skewers in, which will keep it nice and straight while we're cooking. We've brushed it in a lobster oil made from all of the legs. And now we're just going to really delicately cook it, and then we're going to leave it, once it's cooked on this side, we're going to turn it around, and we're going to leave it up on top of the fire, and we're going to let it smoke very gently.
We turn half the claw meat into a mousse, which we lighten up with a little bit of Guernsey cream and season with some toasted nori. And then we fold through some little lobster nuggets, we like to call them.
So the bun is topped with that mousse made from the head. So this is a sauce made from the head and all of the shells of the lobster. We've added some chilies that we get from the farm shop, so from Sasha just down the road, and some tomatoes. Make a really sweet and spicy sauce. So all we've got now is the little bun. And then this is some toasted seaweed that's dried, and this part of the dish sits alongside the tail. So this is a sauce made from garlic. So the garlic we cook for 9 days first to make it lovely and dark, and then that gets turned into a stock. Then that stock we set with the seaweed extract, and then we blend it so it becomes really lovely and smooth and shiny. So now the lobster has been removed from the grill, and we've just brushed it in a little bit more of that lobster oil, and we're going to let it sit there for just a minute. This is just a little soy, mirin, and seaweed glaze. So we're going to sit that on there, and we're going to just baste that over the top. This is going to season it, as well as make it lovely and sticky. We get 2 portions from a tail. So the sauce that we've made here is all of the heads of the lobster have been smashed up, roasted down, and then we've infused them into a koji soy. And then that koji soy is seasoned with an aged griced vinegar, some mirin. We add a little bit of the lobster oil into it as well, and then we infuse it with lots of roasted seaweed. And then this here is basically a furikake that we make. So what we've done is cooked lots of lobster into a crumb, and then we've got some grains and some toasted seaweed in there, and this is going to create loads of texture on the plate. And then we're just going to split that sauce with a little bit of preserved wild garlic oil. Here we have our lobster in 2 parts. So the idea behind this dish is that you'll enjoy this one first, and then this bun is cut in half, so you'll take half of it with the sauce that's on the plinth, and the other half is just to mop up the rest of the sauce that's in the bowl. Thank you very much for making the trip. Let's get the squad and show what you brought for us. Benny, leave that for a sec.
Jeff, it's an honour.
Thank you very much.
Come over today and present you with something rather special. Who's going to... who's going to do the honours?
Max can open this one.
Yes!
Receiving the Star here in Guernsey was a really weird experience. Not weird in a negative sense at all, but it was just I almost expected it to happen in the same, or feel the same as it did the first time we got the star. And it was actually completely different. And it was almost a sense of relief. It was huge, obviously, it was an enormous thing. Yeah, it's like we planned that spot. There was a lot of pressure. The guide hadn't been here before. We had to make enough noise that they would come and see us. We're a new opening, and would they give us 12 months before they came and saw us? And were they even going to come to Guernsey was a question. But I think for all of us, it was almost like a huge sense of relief. The restaurant doesn't exist without Holly. I think to sum up, what Holly, my wife, does behind the scenes is quite tough in just a few words, but she fills all the gaps in behind the scenes. She makes sure that everything works as it should work, and all the other bits that just would otherwise pull me away from the kitchen, and that's why we've been able to go at it so hard for sort of such a short period of time and get back into the Michelin Guide, for example. We wouldn't have a Michelin Star here without Holly. We were trying to build a Michelin Starred restaurant with Guernsey at the heart of everything that we do. The next goal for us is create a better restaurant and better in every aspect. And then, you know, of course, 2 stars would be the next goal in terms of accolades. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. I probably would have been embarrassed to say it a couple of years ago, but that might take us 5 years, it might take us 10 years, we might never get there. However, we've got to start. I'm Nathan Davies. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe.